In November of 2009, my life changed forever. Before I go too far into the story about my life, I would like to ask the people that are just here for my business content to stick around and give me a chance to share my personal life with you. I believe it is these personal stories that allows you to understand who I am, how I think. Plus, I believe videos like this one can inspire my audience in a much different way than any of the business content that I create. So what is so important about November of 2009, 10 years ago at this point, since I'm taping this in November of 2019? That was the time that I moved 2,000 miles away from my hometown. And throw a little bit of an asterisk in this because I did technically move away from my hometown for college. I went to Kent State University. It was about 40 minutes away from my hometown, but it was still in the same Northeast Ohio region. A lot of the people and experiences were similar enough, a few degrees off than what I was used to, so it was definitely not something that I was completely outside of my comfort zone. Now, for this video, I won't go too far into my hometown, but I was born and raised in the Rust Belt city of Youngstown, Ohio. During my final year of graduate school while I'm getting my MBA, I honestly was still trying to figure out my life. I would love to lie to you guys on this video and say I had everything figured out, but I didn't. The initial idea that I had when I was in that kind of last year of my MBA program was that I was going to apply to jobs at bigger cities that were close to Youngstown, Ohio. So where Youngstown, Ohio is located, it's actually an hour-ish away from Cleveland, Ohio and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I had some choices that I was considering, but while I was considering that, in the middle of that last year, I found out that my father had become severely sick, and I decided to kind of transition my brain into helping him, helping the family. And my idea was that I was going to move back home and join the family business to help him. So just to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on the business that I was planning on joining, my dad owned a car repair business for well over a decade at that point. And despite his relentless desire to teach me how to be a mechanic, I was not all that interested in just the thought of manual labor. Instead, during the earlier days of this business, this is talking about maybe like my preteens up to the point where I could drive, I actually enjoyed a much different part of his business. At that point, the business was attached also to a Marathon gas station, and there was a convenience store that was also a part of that business. And I fell in love with that side of the business. I was very interested in the merchandising, the inventory, the bookkeeping, the cash controls, a lot of the back office decision-making elements that my dad was really not all that interested in doing. He was very good at fixing cars, and he really wanted to spend his time doing what he was great at and what he enjoyed. So I kind of dove into that world and started to really enjoy that, and that really changed the way that I thought about everything. And that's why I studied accounting in my undergrad. I just really enjoyed, honestly, the aspect that I could order some wholesale inventory, I could sell that with a markup that I had chose, and I created a profit. I just like that whole chain of events that happened during those early years. It really was a big impression on me, and you guys can tell from what I do today that it makes a lot of sense that that was what I fell in love with. So in the summer of 2009, I just finished up my MBA, living in Youngstown, Ohio at this point. I was living with my father, I was working with my father, and to be completely honest, and I don't want to sound like somebody that's complaining, but life was good. Life wasn't all that bad. But regardless of everything being on the surface good, I started to struggle with some mental health type things. I started to get depressed. I started to think about my life and where it was going, and I was not happy. I felt like I was settling for a life that I didn't necessarily ever really dream of. Initially, when I was in high school, the idea was that I was going to work for my father, but when I got into college and then got into grad school, that was really not an idea that was in my head anymore. I had kind of an idea of my life being much different. So me being a part of something that I didn't necessarily dream of or want to be a part of, it was a big strain on myself. So while I'm going through that and I'm just kind of keeping it all in, bottling it all in, not really telling anybody about anything, I had the opportunity to have lunch with one of my childhood friends. And while we were having lunch, this was somewhere around like October of 2009, we started to just kind of talk about things that were going on in my life. And I started to open up, which is very odd for me. Something that I don't normally do I'm not necessarily one of those people that opens up to anybody. So started to talk about some of the things that I was feeling about my life and how I thought it was not going in the direction that I had hoped. And through that conversation and him sharing some things around his first year moving out of the same hometown and his experience in Las Vegas, Nevada, we started to stumble on this idea that maybe it would be good for me to move to Las Vegas. He told me at the end of that lunch to consider moving to Las Vegas, and he would be more than happy to allow me to sleep on his couch that was in his living room for as long as I needed until I could get a job and afford my own place to rent. What he didn't know at the time was when we were talking about me moving to Las Vegas, I had already made my decision. In that moment, regardless of maybe how fearful I was, or definitely not thinking about all the challenges that I was gonna have to overcome, I made the decision in my head, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna do what I need to do to move as quick as possible. And about 3 weeks after that lunch, I packed up as much as I could fit into my small SUV. I think it was a Ford Escape at the time. And I drove 36 hours from Youngstown, Ohio to Las Vegas, Nevada. I drove straight through. I think I took maybe a 30-minute nap somewhere in Oklahoma, but mostly I was driven on excitement to be in a new city, be in a new experience, and I drank a ton of Monster energy drinks to get me through. When I got to Las Vegas, my friend Rob Luceni, a friend that I can never repay for what he did for me, even though I'm not sure if he even knows to what extent I am thankful for what that one conversation brought in my life. He was true to his word. He had the couch ready for me. I'm not exactly sure if he even told his fiance at the time that I was coming to move to Las Vegas and I was going to be crashing on their living room couch, but regardless, she was unfazed, even though I was definitely an inconvenience to them. I appreciate both of them being extremely cool about the whole situation. Over the next month, I was applying to a ton of different jobs. I was doing whatever I can. You have to kind of remember I was in a new city. I was definitely in a place that I didn't really have any friends. The few people that I knew in Las Vegas were people from high school that I wasn't all that friendly with, and I was definitely not at a place where I could ask for anything meaningful if I needed it. So I had no job. I was basically in a tough time during the financial crisis, especially in Las Vegas, that was hit very hard. I had student debt. I had no real savings, and I was living on a couch of my buddy's living room. But while that sounds extremely negative and maybe something that you would never want to experience in your wildest dreams, it was by far the best decision I had ever made in my life. And it was one that has taught me so many lessons that have allowed me to be successful over the last 10 years of my life. This is one of those experiences, moving away from your hometown. I'm talking drastically move away from your hometown to a place that you really have no safety net, is an experience I believe every single person should choose to go through if they ultimately want to grow into the person that they're supposed to be. Here are some amazing things that it taught me, and I could list a ton of things, but just wanted to kind of focus on a few that were at the top of my mind. Fear is only a short-term emotion. You guys have heard this a ton of different times, that fear kills more dreams than anything else. And I was definitely fearful moving to Las Vegas, but what I realized was that during those times when I was extremely scared, I was able to learn more about myself than any other situation that I've come across. Each time you confront fear head on and you win, it's kind of like adding a little bit of plus to that confidence of yourself. And through consistently winning against fear, putting in the hard work, making those steps you need to do to overcome that short-term feeling, you realize that taking a leap that is scary, that is bigger, will be easy to digest. And it's partly because you've been successful doing it through smaller situations. And this is something that is going to continuously help you through life, because there's never going to be a time when you are reaching for big goals that you're not going to be scared. If you're not scared of your goals are not all that big, quite honestly. So this experience teaches you it in a very unique way, one that I've been able to pinpoint that has helped me throughout the last 10 years. The second one I wanted to talk about was just around comfort zones and how that limits you. I am a big person about routines. I love routines. It is something that has always been a part of my life. But what I've realized was these routines also limit your growth. When you move to a completely new place, you'll realize very quickly that that routine that you used to have does not matter anymore, is not going to be useful in this new situation. So you have to then assess everything with a new, fresh set of eyes. And this sink or swim attitude, again, allows you in a similar way to the first point to really have the strength to be able to take on anything in life. When you're outside of your comfort zone, you're able to then still perform at the same level or higher than you had done. It'll give you a ton of strength to overcome any situation in your life. The third one I want to talk about is one around like friendships. And what I've experienced is that though your friendship circles become smaller, they actually become a lot stronger. It is very difficult to keep up with all of your friends that you had in your hometown. And you'll realize that distance, proximity to these people were a lot of the reasons why you were as close of a friend to them as you were. When you're no longer as close in proximity to them and the ability for you to just sporadically see them or keep up with them on a surface level, it's impossible to keep up that level of relationship regardless of social media and all the other kind of tools that help you in today's age. What I've found is that those who matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter. So you might have heard that one before, and it honestly is something that you're gonna have to learn, because a lot of your friends, your really close friends, are gonna realize that there are challenges with communicating, especially when you are in this new world that is very different. And the important people, the ones that understand this, will stick by you. They don't necessarily need to have the same friendship that they had before. They are able to adapt that friendship to what it is today. Those important people are going to be proud of the growth within you, are going to be cheering you on from the sidelines or from a distance. Those are the people that you're going to consistently keep in your life. The other ones are going to fall off. So you're going to have a tighter, stronger circle, but you're going to have a much smaller circle than when you left. The fourth one is around this idea that you're going to hear people say that you've changed. So when you're left to survive and you only have yourself, you don't have much of a safety net, you're going to grow in ways that you just don't notice. After years of changing and maybe not noticing it, you're gonna hear people say that you've changed. And for me, it initially bothered me, and I'm sure it's gonna initially bother you. But then you realize it is a compliment. You realize that this is what life is all about. It's about changing, it's about adapting, it's about growing. And if you're not doing that, you're not really living life to the fullest. So you'll start to realize that this is actually an extremely good compliment. So the fifth and final one that I'm going to talk about on this video is that people think differently in different places. I figured everybody in the world thought like people from Youngstown, Ohio. What I realized was that people from Youngstown, Ohio think very differently, and that's based around the environment, based around the culture, based around the experiences that happen through generations. And though that might have a unique place in my heart, I've appreciated being able to learn from different mindsets, learn from people that think differently. And when you're in Las Vegas, or when you're in Reno, or when you're in Denver, or when you're in Austin, people think differently in each one of those cities. There might be some commonalities, but there's also a lot of things that they think very differently about. And all of those things together help you be more well-rounded, help you be able to consider things from a ton of different perspectives. And it has allowed me to grow immensely over the last 10 years. So like I said, I probably could go on forever about this really impactful experience that happened to me 10 years ago. And I've continued to be in the moment and experiencing even today, living in Austin, Texas. I wanted to kind of leave this video by saying, if you've moved far away from your hometown and you didn't really have a safety net and everything was a challenge, but also very exciting, I would love to hear from you on what were some of the best things that you experienced and cherished by that experience. So make sure you guys comment below on this video or any of the social media posts in which I share this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you some value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.